Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of The Infinite Pathway. I'm AJ Kavanaugh.
I'm Tom Workman, and we have been on a ride for 12 episodes. This is number 12, and our last one. We are so delighted you're here with us, and you're going to join us.
Absolutely. It's an exciting one today because it's kind of the culmination of everything, all of the shared messages that the guides have been communicating with us over these past 11 weeks, and it culminates in this very special episode.
That's right. It's all about oneness. And I want to be clear that the end of our evolutionary pathway, the end of our infinite pathway, isn't just oneness, but it's such an important milestone along the evolution of all of humanity. And one, I think, where we're going to see a real change in the way we relate to one another, the way that we do everything. And you can really see right now a number of circumstances that are trying to bring us to that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because as we become more aware in our consciousness, more opens up for us. So it's funny, you think, oh, well, oneness is just this, kumbaya idea of everyone being on the same vibe, so to speak. You like hanging out together and you like sharing company together and all of that. And you have understanding together, of course, and things like that. But what happens is consciously so much more opens up for you and so much more is available for you. So oneness is really something that everything and everyone in the universe really is working toward, this idea of understanding.
And where we want to live. So as always, we're thrilled you're here with us. We're thrilled we get to watch this episode again with you. And as always, we encourage you to be a part of this whole experience by writing in the chat, sharing your reactions, your thoughts, saying hello to the others who are on watching. So please feel free to do that. Just to simply say, hi, it's me from Poughkeepsie.
Absolutely. And speaking of Poughkeepsie, welcome to our Soul Search family as well, who also join us as regulars in the replays and in the Soul Search Facebook community, and also to our very own Speaking from Source Facebook community and YouTube community as well. We love connecting with you all.
And we don't know if any of you are from Poughkeepsie, but we love connecting with you. So please feel free to use the chat. And then when the episode's over, we're going to hang out and are happy to answer any questions, open any conversations, really make the most of this time together so we can not only make sense of what we were all heard in the episode, but also just have a lovely conversation. Our last chance to have these chats in this series. So we'd be delighted to hear from you.
But as usual, we've always got something more cooking and exciting for you. So stay tuned for announcements for that as well. But in the meantime, I say we get together as one and watch this final episode. What do you say?
I think we worked hard to get that pun in, but yes, let's do it.
Absolutely. Okay, here we go.
Thomas Workman and AJ Kavanaugh are intuitive channels who have a remarkable ability to speak for a spiritual collective they call the Guides. They are unique in that they channel the Guides together, sharing one mind as they deliver messages. The primary interest of the Guides is helping us all live consistently in the state of joy, accomplished through a set of simple practices they call the Infinite Pathway. The Infinite Pathway, Journey to Self-Realization.
Hi, I'm AJ Kavanaugh.
And I'm Thomas Workman. Welcome to our season finale of the Infinite Pathway, Journey to Self-Realization.
Throughout this series, Thomas and I are talking about some of the most important messages that we've channeled from the Guides, who all want us to live consistently in the state of joy. Because, as they've explained, our conscious ascension not just happens to us, It happens through us.
Yes, and it's been incredible to look through the many transcripts from our public channeling events to see clear themes and principles emerge that the guides want us to all understand and to apply to our lives at this very important time of our awakening.
Indeed. The guides have provided a set of principles for us that, when realized together, show us all exactly how we can understand and embrace these amazing times we're living in and the opportunity we all have to advance our consciousness.
Yes, and everything we've discussed throughout this entire series has been hinting at this episode's final topic of oneness.
Yes. Well, Tom, not just hinting at it,
Yeah.
but everything we've discussed throughout this series actually culminates in our realization of oneness.
That's right.
And I'm sure many of us are now coming to this conscious awareness right now in one way or another.
That's exactly right. But as we've heard in every episode, words like oneness may not provide a clear understanding of the concept, which is why AJ and I are so grateful to bring the guide's wisdom and clarity to help us make sense of this important aspect of our evolved consciousness.
Yes, that's very true. To have an understanding, we need to have a foundation. And as usual, we'll start with what the guides mean when they speak of oneness.
We often use the analogy of the diamond. We ask you to think of a large, well-chiseled diamond with many, many facets to it. And in each of those facets is its own shine, its own unique way of reflecting light, not like the one next to it, not like the one across from it, not like the one under it. And this is who we collectively are. This is what you are, a facet of a diamond. And we remind you that the diamond is incomplete without your facet, without your perspective, without your view, without your contribution. The diamond is incomplete. And therefore, we are able to accept what is the whole as opposed to its individual parts.
I think it's important to start by understanding that the guides see oneness as a collective state of being, a consciousness that each of us achieves where we all understand our individuality in relation to the divine whole.
That's right. The guides often present the analogy of the universe as a diamond to help us understand this relationship. That's the foundation we need. They remind each of us that we're all a unique facet of the diamond with our own reflection of the light of source, as we talked about in episode 2 about vibration, and episode 3 about each of us being part of divinity itself.
Yes, the diamond analogy really illustrates oneness beautifully because we don't see the beauty of the diamond until we see all of the facets shining together as one whole.
I love that they clarify some common misperceptions of oneness in that last channeling. Many of us, myself included, aren't really all that excited about entering a state of oneness, thinking that doing so could mean that we lose our individual identities as we blend into one great big mush of humanity.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, but that is a common misperception about oneness. The guides explain that oneness is actually about recognizing our unique part of the whole and then understanding our essential place within that whole. Here's how the guides put it.
Your independent souls, your individuality, your own personal taste, if you will. And for each of you have this distinction. Each of you have a uniqueness. There is only one of you. There is only you. You are an idea that completed the universe, different than all others. And therefore, you have this opportunity to connect together your individual identity with those of all others around you. For you are entering a time when it is most critical for you to recognize your connections, not only with one another, but with all other beings that exist, those that are on this planet and those that are on other planets and other systems and in other dimensions. Now, this is an entirely different way of seeing ourselves in relation to everything else in the universe. And they mean everything.
Everything.
Yeah, let's listen to what they express here. For oneness is not just oneness on your planet, it's not just oneness among humans. It is oneness among all of the universe. It is oneness with all, including us who are non physical.
As we've said, everything we've been sharing from the guides has led us to a better understanding of this very important part of our spiritual evolution.
That's right. An understanding of oneness is exactly where our evolution and ascension is guiding us toward. We just need to bring it forward in our own consciousness. Here are the guides saying exactly that. You are evolving, you are growing, you are maturing individually, yes, and as an entire species, yes. You are learning to find the connection, and so this is what we speak of most, for in connection is the joy you seek, in connection is the fulfillment that you find, in connection is peace, in connection is the essential elements of oneness that you know will bring you into a higher level of completion.
But as the guides also explain, our ability to realize a oneness consciousness is a choice that each of us make rather than a state of being we simply wake up into one day. So, in helping us to choose to adopt oneness consciousness, the guides are going to piece together the realization of our own divinity to our own connection to everything in the entire universe. As the guides express, oneness is not a state of being alone. It is a community of interdependent souls who understand their connection to one another.
Interdependent, that's the key word, right?
It is.
As we've mentioned in earlier episodes, Source uses sacred geometry to help us understand the nature of the universe and our connection to one another. And the circle is one great way to visualize oneness. Let's look at two images. This first image depicts how many of us see ourselves as separate entities that may interact with one another or even associate with one another, but who each stand independently from others, sort of like the old adage, you are born alone and you die alone. But Source sees every being in the universe as part of a circle where each individual being is an essential part of the whole, that everyone is included and everyone plays a role in forming the whole, and everyone benefits from being a part of the whole. In fact, the whole is stronger because it's the whole.
That's what makes the circle. It makes it complete and it makes it stronger as a result of everything uniting together with that energy.
That's exactly right. Let's listen to what the guides say.
A world of oneness is a world in which each individual shares this I am. Each individual recognizes their power of joy, their divine connection to Source does nothing to interrupt it for any others and all others. My joy is not costing me you your joy does not cost me my joy. That instead we can recognize each other in ourselves, for we are both adored by Source.
My joy is not costing your joy. I just love that idea that there's, nothing that's left out in this, that I can be happy, you can be happy, and we can be happy collectively in oneness. I find this just fascinating. So let's spend some time understanding what we each can do to realize a oneness-based consciousness and yet fully embrace our own individual joy that comes with it.
Well, again, we'll need to go back to some earlier principles to do this, because our realization of them is the perfect path to our realizing our oneness. First, the guides remind us that our realization of our unique being, our soul, is needed before we're able to understand how it fits into the whole, as they clarify in this channeled message.
The individual who is not fully realizing themselves has less to offer, can be kind, yes, can be courteous, yes, but cannot offer full unconditional love, which will be required as you move into oneness, as your planet become truly aligned into oneness. This is where you are going, this is where you are heading.
What the guides are telling us is that moving into a state of oneness actually doesn't diminish our state of individual identities, but it does rely on an individual realization to take our place in that circle.
Exactly. So embracing our individual divinity and uniqueness is the first step to oneness, as odd as that sounds. And we understand that we bring something of value to all of humanity. And we create a higher and greater good for all of humanity just by our being.
Yeah, that's what makes Tom so special and AJ so special and you so special.
Yeah.
And that's a very different view than many humans now have, who instead use their individual realization of self as a way to actually set them apart from each other and to find differences. Or they lessen their value and choose to stay hidden behind something else or someone else.
That's true. Many of us still see ourselves as separate entities that have to compete against one another to get what we need, as the guides explain here.
And yet we would say to you that it is more than your accomplishment of your personal desires, for there is a planet of you who are all desiring at the same time, and therefore there are larger layers that must occur that allow for the intersection between all these intentions, and this is where the road becomes bumpy. Yes, this is where the challenge begins, for here your individual desire may feel in conflict with another's, and your individual desire is certainly affected by the intentions of others. This is part of why we talk so much of oneness as the destination for your evolution now. For in it is the opportunity to work past competition. Competition meaning the belief there's only so many resources, and therefore I must grab at, I must take over, I must have my share, my piece.
Now, the guides make clear that our belief that we have to compete against one another leads us to judging one another or finding fault with one another to prove our own worth. And yet, the guides remind us that this way of being is not just flawed, it actually impedes our individual joy. Let's hear them say a little bit more about this.
We encourage you now to continue in this way if you wish to benefit as well as we do from oneness. And this is an important question for you. Why be involved in oneness? Why be one? Why not have a separate voice, separate mind? And this you do have, as we are expressing to you now. But we are telling you that the conflict, the pushing against one another is not serving you or your planet well in any way, and you are beginning to realize its downfalls as you watch opposition for the sake of opposition, as you watch opinions that immediately upon their expression are designed to put down another opinion or to put down another perspective, and the need for you to defend yourself and your position is unknown for those of us, for it is unimportant for you to even understand my perspective as much as it is important for us to recognize what we share in common, what it is that we both appreciate, though we may practice and exist in different ways and follow different patterns.
As we've said in previous episodes, our understanding of our own divinity and individuality also helps us understand and accept the divinity of all other beings.
And when we accept the divinity of ourselves and others, then we can then find our connection to one another, which is also essential to our realizing oneness. Here's the guides talking about this.
It is hard then to see those individuals as divine, and yet this is exactly what we encourage you to do, for here is how the collective must exist. here is the only way in which a oneness can occur, is that there is complete connection to one another's divinity. For the moment that there is judgment, there is separation. The moment there is criticism, there is separation. The moment that there is any distinction, even the distinction of your outfit is nicer than mine, your shoes are prettier than mine, even in these cases, there is separation and the collective is not whole.
You know, this is just like when the guides talked about in episode 8 our connection that we have with one another.
That's right.
And here are the guides again expressing the importance of finding our connection with one another as a way to realize our oneness.
It is the connection then between you and each other's spirits that enables you to find your unity, that enables you to find your oneness, that enables you to connect in ways that your physical body, your physical mind, even your physical emotions, what you call your heart, even these things are limited. They are not enough for you to connect with the heart of another. That is where unity, where oneness lives. This beautiful miracle, as you grow in your abilities to make this connection with one another, as well as with every being throughout the universe, will serve you so very well, for in it is the answers to so many of the dilemmas you are now currently facing.
One of the barriers to our finding those connections lies in our focusing on our differences rather than our similarities. In fact, the guides go as far as to say that it's our proclivity to judge one another based on our differences that keeps us from ascending to a oneness consciousness. Now, in this next clip, the guides lay out this challenge in full detail.
As you speak of wishing to find oneness, we say to you, oneness begins first and foremost with your finding the connection that you have between those others. It is easier to do this, of course, when you are connected to those who are like you, who are similar. For you say, I like this, you like this, and the line is drawn. We wish for you to know that you have lines drawn between you and those who are the exact opposite of you, those who are nothing like you, those who are completely different from you, those that you do not like, those that you do not care for are the ones you are equally connected to. And to spend the time to understand that connection, to say, what is it that connects me to you? What is it that connects us? Changes your relationship to those things, the way in which you interact with those things. A critical change for you if you wish to live in a peaceful society. It seems you are unwilling to find those connections to those things that are not like you. It is easier to find the difference. Who is smarter, who is funnier, who is richer, who is prettier? And we could go on with many of these separators that you have filled for yourself.
It really seems that this sums up our current times, where we focus more on what separates us than the many things that we actually indeed do have in common together. We have the choice to pivot our thinking in any moment about what separates us and instead focus on what we share, as the guides express here.
We ask you gently to identify your separators and to reconsider your separators and to reconsider how they are serving you and in what ways they are helping you. For as we've said earlier, they do not feel good when we separate from another being, when we say, what is the difference between you and I versus what connects us? What connects you more than anything else is that they, like you, are a creation of the universe. What connects you more than anything else is that Source adores them in the same way it adores you.
It's amazing, isn't it? When we focus on something as simple as recognizing another being as equally adored by Source as we are, we instantly find the start to our connection.
Right. And from that start, there's so much more we can find that connects us to one another and helps us see how we are both part of the same whole.
So, Realizing our own unique, eternal, and divine self helps us realize the divinity in our other beings and enables us to find our connection to one another. And all of that is the foundation of our realized oneness. And then everything is perfect, right?
Well, not so fast. The truth is that we actually don't know what it will look like because we've not achieved oneness yet. But we can imagine that when we reach a oneness consciousness, we're able to gain the ability to co-create systems that lead to our collective greater good and find the solutions to those things that keep us from our joy. Now, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
Here are the guides providing us their vision of what our lives might look like when we realize oneness.
You play a role in this as well, in that your choices each and every day are also critical in terms of this transition. For you have this opportunity to create a new energy, to cooperate where you might want to oppose, to coexist, to find a piece of acceptance, to express love, to show goodwill, to enable yourselves to express an energy of oneness that does permeate, that does affect, that does ring out to your entire vibratory nature and has a great effect. Do not think that your small drop of water in the great ocean that seems to be churning does not have impact. It has great impact.
Well, as they just said, and as we alluded to earlier, we make a choice each and every day to contribute to a world that lives in oneness. So let's outline some of those choices in some daily practices.
Sounds like a great idea. So for our first practice, let's start with the guide's suggestion that we identify the things we use to separate ourselves from others so that we can see how they are or are not serving us.
Right. The goal of this practice, like many of the practices we've been recommending to you, is to open up your consciousness to things that you have typically been blind to. And the way to do that is through focused attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So in this practice, we encourage you to pay attention to any time that you disregard someone else. Now, this could be when you're dismissive of someone who's providing a service for you, or when you simply avoid someone because of the way they think, act, or even if they look differently from yourself.
Yeah, this can be hard. And the realization that you're deciding that someone is unworthy of your compassion or empathy can cause feelings of guilt or shame. But, that's never the objective, ever. All Source wants for you is to become conscious of your choice and your beliefs to separate from others and to make conscious choices about them. Like, for example, there's a belief that a lot of people use for a common phrase. I've heard you say it.
Yeah, it's that joke, the world would be fine if it wasn't for other people.
Right. But
Yeah. And, the idea that, my opinion is the only opinion that matters.
that's right. Neither one of these are necessarily helpful towards oneness, but recognizing that those are your beliefs and attitudes are what's important here.
Absolutely. Now, the guides are not saying that you need to love everyone, even that you have to interact with everyone. Empathy only requires your willingness to find understanding, even when you choose not to engage with them. Now, this could be as simple as a smile.
The key is to realize, as the guides say, the times and circumstances when you separate from others and what may be motivating that separation, whether it's fear or jealousy or even to train response after you've seen so many other people do the same thing. When I started doing this, I realized that I had a pretty long list of what I used to separate myself from other humans. And I was a little bit embarrassed to see that I often separated from people who intimidated me or frightened me, either because I didn't understand them or because I thought they would either disregard me or possibly harm me.
Yeah, I think we've all been there with people at one stage or another.
Mm.
But, this will naturally lead to our second daily practice of finding the connection between you and another being.
This one's a little bit more fun. Whenever you're around other people, just take a moment to think about what connects you, especially if they seem very different from you. Just start to think about what you share with this person. From the air you're both breathing to the fact that you probably fell in love sometime in your life, or that you'll both need something to eat in the next 12 hours or so.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm feeling a little hungry myself right now. Maybe later, though. Anyway, you'll soon see how the many things connect the two of you before too long.
Now, ready for the advanced practice? Try and determine what your interdependency is with this person. How does their existence intersect with yours? Are they there to teach you something, expose you to some different perspective, or to hit your hot button just so you realize that it's there? Are they someone who is potential friend or someone who has been challenging you to be kinder? Remember, it's always something positive.
I've made some amazing connections with other people just by staying open to the possibility that they've been placed in my life for a reason, even if I don't realize it at that particular time.
Yeah. Now, don't cheat. Don't focus just on people you know. This exercise is the most fun when you do it with people that you've never met before. Now, one more practice that helps us put all of this together. Make a daily practice in living oneness with the rest of the world.
Yes, make a decision that for 1 hour each day, you're going to live in oneness with every being you encounter, from the smallest insect to the most intimidating person that you might imagine yourself interacting with. This means recognizing their value to you and your connection with them, and how you both fit in the unified circle of life that we described earlier. Now, don't be surprised if it changes your interactions with them forever. If we each did this, we'd move to a much more unified world. And what's important here in this practice is to understand that there is so much more for us to experience in this state of oneness than there is in our separation. Our ability to easily manifest and experience everyday joy without resistance or stress is just a sampling of what we can expect in oneness-based consciousness.
That's right. Now, it's been our honor and privilege to share with you the messages from the guides over these 12 episodes, and we sure hope that they've helped you in your journey towards self-realization.
Now is an important time to come together with those that are also on this journey, and we especially invite you to connect with us by visiting our website, speakingfromsource.com. There you can sign up for our free Wisdom Wednesday messages from the guides, subscribe to our monthly online group channeling, Conversations with Source, and get the personal loving support directly from the guides by booking a one-on-one private channeling session.
They love to have conversations with you. There's so much that you can do to become involved with us at speakingfromsource.com, and we're looking forward to our interactions with you. Now, as we've done in our past episodes, we'll leave you with one final thought from the guides, and we wish you a joyful journey along your infinite pathway.
The essence of love is a connection of oneness. The essence of love is the recognition of me in you and you in me. It is the appreciation of your adoration from the universe as much as mine, knowing that the universe is able to adore you without taking anything from its adoration of me, that in fact we are adored together.
We ask you to take a moment now to contemplate on what we are saying in terms of the level of personal responsibility we are asking of you. This rests with you and you alone. You are not necessarily subject to your external conditions or environment. We ask you to look at your own personal power, what is there within you to harness and to consider the phenomenal statement, the phenomenal choice you make when you make a choice toward love, when there may seem such extreme contrast around you, either personally or in your environment. Consider the statement you are making just by holding the space and the frequencies of joy and love, and the important contribution that in and of itself makes to others and the planet and the environment, which of course you know too well is not always resonant of the same frequencies.
And with this, we are complete.
The universe is speaking, and speaking to you. Continue the journey to self-realization and follow Thomas, AJ, and the guides on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Speaking From Source, or book your personal session with the guides at speakingfromsource.com.
Here we are.
There we are. Wow, what an amazing episode that was. And what a timely episode that was as well. You know,
Yeah.
so much wisdom there. And it was really interesting. You know, shout out to everyone who's joining us, of course, live. But it's really interesting, this idea of how futile it is to be pushing against and putting all of that energy in expressing this idea of, you know, my opinion over yours, or my personality over yours, or my way over yours, when we are part of a collective whole.
And once you realize it, you can't unsee it. Here's the interesting thing. We're going to tell you now. We'll warn you that now that you understand that, in fact, the guys often say you can't unlearn this. So now you know. And what that means is that there are going to be times when it's going to be obvious to you where it might not have ever been obvious. That's consciousness.
Yes.
Right? So that suddenly you kind of go, oh, that's what they were talking about. I can see the difference between separating and connecting. And I can see the difference between when I compete, for example, versus when I collaborate and cooperate. So it's an exciting time that is really designed, as everything the guides share, designed to kind of expand our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody asked, and I'm really grateful they did, Lisa asked about how could I see this series again? What can I do? Is this available to me, or do I have to wait for the next time you do this?
Absolutely. Well, we have the entire series free streaming on Soul Search TV. So if you have a smart TV like a Roku or something like that, you can add the Soul Search channel for free, and you can find us there at soulsearch.tv. /on demand, and you can find the whole Infinite Pathway series there. But because we've been doing this live stream, and many of you are actually watching this live stream live or in the replays on our YouTube channel, if you go to our YouTube channel, speakingfromsource.com, YouTube channel, YouTube Speaking From Source YouTube channel. God, what a tongue twister that is. You'll be able to see under the playlist, the Infinite Pathway live stream, all of the 12 episodes listed out there for you to watch and replay at your leisure, absolutely free as our gift to you. And so we would really encourage you to do that. We do watch the comments there. So, we will respond to those comments as well. And speaking of which, Gladys adds a really interesting comment here. Doesn't competition help us to grow?
Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, it does. It helps us to see different perspectives and different viewpoints. But it doesn't help us if we believe that we're not part of the unified whole. So that's an important consideration there.
Well, and it depends what we mean by grow. Because I think that's one of those myths that part of humans have about believing that certain things are really beneficial for us. But when we really examine them, we may say, well, that's maybe not so beneficial for me. And let me tell you, I was for a number of years a competitive speech coach. I coached a competitive team. I competed when I was in college, and then I coached for a number of years in a really top-notch national team where we were ranked in the top 10 and sometimes the top 3 of the country. I have national champions that I coached. And I'll tell you the truth, during that time, And when I was really interested in competition, I told everyone that this is how you're going to strengthen your skills, by trying to be the best, by trying to beat everyone else. And over the years, as my consciousness grew, one of the first things I realized is, no, this is all here to help you find your voice. That you beat someone was not what built your skill. It wasn't the beating of them. In fact, that just started making it all very anxious. And we had a number of competitors, including myself as a coach, who felt the anxiety of having to beat everyone else, as opposed to express their skills and their gifts and use their voice to create, not just to win a trophy, but to create a better world.
Right. So, competition can help us understand, as the guides say, our unique individuality. For example, I'm an amazing speaker, or I'm an amazing athlete, but competition doesn't help us when it excludes, because it is an abundant universe. And so there's room enough for everybody. And speaking of which, I love that the guides use that image of the diamond, because therein is our individual unique facets, our individual contribution, as it were, in perfect relationship to everything else. It's not in competition. Actually, your unique facet is what helps make the diamond sparkle as a whole. And once it's seen as a whole, that's what makes it so, wonderful.
And isn't that interesting that you and I look at the diamond and we never stop and just look at a single a facet and its shimmer? We look at the whole. We really see the whole. And yet that whole is only happening because of the shimmer of each individual facet. So yeah, that's really a lovely image. So there's a bigger recognition here that I want to make a point about, and the guides made a point in. Our self-realization is critical for our being part of the one. That, in other words, we can't come empty. We can't come not knowing who we are. We can't, and that means everything, knowing our strengths, knowing where we want to grow toward. We can't come in without some self-realization in order to be part of the oneness. So
right, and that kind of leads right into Timothy's question there.
Yeah.
He asks about relationships, particularly marriage after ascension, when individual awareness merges with oneness. Universal awareness evolves. How will these relationships transform?
Great question.
Absolutely. And, part of the answer is that once again, you're able to express yourself without compromise to anyone else. So, and I'm going to just say this outright, what makes Tom and I a great relationship is that we're in equal balance. We recognize our differences, we recognize our similarities, but we're in harmony, we're not in competition. So, there was that idea of, what was that funny thing? I love you, now change.
Yeah. That's
What
right.
was that expression? It was some stage play
That's
or something. Right. But there is that idea, and so in oneness, it's like, I love you, you're perfect.
And since we've done so many song lyrics throughout this entire series, my first thought went to, is it Janet Jackson who said, "What have you done for me lately?"
Right.
Interestingly, one of the things that, and AJ and I formed our relationship after we both have been down this pathway for a bit. And I think that's why the universe had us come together. But one of the things that we really vowed as we started our relationship is that we weren't going to demand that each other make us happy, because we understood we make us happy, and that we bring the happiness we pull together, the joy, the completeness that we have into the relationship. And so what's wonderful is as you grow in your consciousness, as you grow in your understanding of all these things, you bring that to the relationship. And all of that strengthens the relationship. And it's one of the ways in which couples ascend together, especially when you have those conversations about why you do what you do and how you do. And chances are there's something in the relationship you're in that attracted you towards this very thing that you're interested in.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We have another question here as well. How should we deal with those that are treating us badly?
It's a great question. It's a great question. Well, one of the things hopefully you figured out by now is that reciprocation is not helpful, right? Just as we said before, conflict doesn't produce what we want, right? So fighting with and digging in more and pushing a little bit harder against something, opposition doesn't really assist. So we have to listen to our own hearts really carefully. We have to say, what do I want to do that makes me feel better? And oftentimes it's, I want you to feel worse than you made me feel. Right. As opposed to saying, I know who I am. We're right back to self-realization, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know who I am. I know what my value is. I know what my strengths are.
Yes.
And so I don't need to play that game with you. I can show compassion, understanding you perhaps are having a bad day, or perhaps you're just not there.
Yeah. And to this point here, you know, isn't the idea of someone treating us badly just another form of competition?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's very, very interesting there.
Yeah.
And so the guides, I would actually recommend that you go back a little earlier into this episode, because the guides actually mention that very point, that you don't have to engage or be in the same room or even maintain a relationship with those that do not honor you for who you are in your I am presence. You know, I appreciate Tom for who he is, not because he's the same as me. I appreciate him for all of his things that are different from me, even the things that might niggle me a little bit, because it expands me. It expands my understanding, patience or appreciation, or just the idea of being unconditional love, you know?
So really, when we see someone treating us badly, it gives us a choice. It gives us a chance to sort of say, is this someone that is important to me in my life? Is this something I'm giving more weight to than I need to? Is this someone who's waiting to see compassion because they simply don't understand it?
Right.
But remember what the guide said, you don't have to stick around people that aren't aligned with you. You can be one and understand a connection from a distance.
Yes.
And there are many times, in fact, the guides often say, appreciate your scoundrels. It doesn't mean go have lunch with them. It just means understand that here's one thing they say often. When people treat us badly, it gives us the opportunity to wish and see for a different world. Right. And so sometimes that happens just so that we can envision a world where people are nicer.
Yeah, and Anna again raises this great point, that how we treat others is how we teach others, and vice versa as well. Is how we treat. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how we want to be treated. That's
yeah,
exactly
absolutely.
Right.
And once again, this idea of engagement, just bless them and send them on their way. Just give them a smile or say thank you for that perspective, and then move on. It doesn't mean that you agree with it. It doesn't mean that you have to change. It's just recognizing that they're on a different part of the circle, right?
Yeah. Now you want to hear the wild part?
Yes.
The guides talk. Remember when they talked about vibration, and again, all those foundations that are important for everything we're talking about. The fact is that our vibrations have an effect on others. We can't help it.
Yeah.
And others, their vibrations have an effect on us. And so it's important to sort of recognize we're at different vibratory stances.
Yes.
We're at different places. And so the more that I show compassion, I let my vibrational frequency have an effect on others. It's a lovely thing.
See how we're using the guides use the word empathy, and we're using compassion, and you use other words like understanding. It's simply just recognizing their I am for who they are, and allowing ourselves to maintain in our own individual I am. And these are all these different facets of the diamond. Notice that when you look at a diamond, there are some dark facets that enable for that absorption of light, and some shiny facets that allow for the refraction of light. It's all of those different aspects, all of those different things that give the diamond its brilliance. And that's what is light, that's what is source, and that's what's within us as well, all of those different facets.
Right. And as Anna said, we do teach others how to interact with us. but we do that through our vibrational frequency. So that we really, as we keep our vibrations high, we communicate really vibrationally to others that say, I'm too positive. I'm just too positive for that. That's just going to bounce right off of me. Nice try.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's just going to bounce off of me, and I'm not going to reciprocate. I'll tell you that many times people who are a little nasty are nasty because it's the only way they know how to engage another being.
Or they think that's the social thing to do, to be snippy or quippy or whatever. And it's interesting because I was commenting to Tom last week. We were at an event with a whole lot of group of people, and some people were talking about things, and I just couldn't go where those people were talking. And they were fine people, they were great people to be around. I enjoyed the afternoon, but I couldn't go down that rabbit hole with them. And it had nothing to do with politics, by the way. It was just a particular opinion on, a few issues there. And I'm like, that's great for you, but I can't join you in that. And it's interesting too, because in one of the episodes that we did about finding your guides and your divine connection as well, the guide said that, we can't join you in your misery. We can't join you in your sorrows and the woe is me,
or you're complaining, or your self-depreciation, or any of those things.
Yeah. And it's really funny because Timothy calls it guy banter.
That's right.
Which
That's
is so
exactly
funny.
Right.
We've all been there. We've all heard that.
Girl banter could be worse.
I'm sure if you're a girl, you can relate.
Yeah.
And Anna says it's an important point about communicating through our high vibrations.
Exactly right. And it's why before you connect with others, you start with yourself.
Yes.
It's why your meditation time, your time really adjusting your own vibrational frequency is so important. The more aligned you are with source, it just pours out in everything else that you do and in every interaction that you have.
Yeah. And so, when you're going out there, you are putting out a vibration, you are putting out a projection. And so consciousness is all about becoming aware of that, aware of your personal vibration, checking in with how you're feeling and how you're projecting. And it may just be that, if you're dealing with others, simply take a breath, simply smile and see how that changes your frequency. And, go in with an idea of appreciation rather than an idea of competition or an idea of retribution or an idea that of trepidation, that this will be horrible for me. They're all just different facets of the diamond, but you'll find that as we ascend in consciousness, as we ascend in oneness, that vibration, that diamond gets more polished and more brilliant. As we get to deeper understanding. And once again, I love this quote from the guides where they say, oneness is a consciousness that each of us achieve, where we all understand our individuality in relation to the divine whole. And that's what an ecosystem is, right? There are certain things that enable that ecosystem to thrive. It's the falling leaf from the tree that creates the compost and the soil and the nutrients for the new seed to sprout forward, right?
Yeah. Hey, I love this conversation. I'm so grateful that we have this chance to do this. We're going to try and find other ways to do this. We're actually, and if you're unaware, we've created the Circle of Light. And the Circle of Light is a membership where you can be a part of a variety of discussion boards, a variety of large live discussion events that we're planning here in the future. It really designed because have you noticed how great it is to sit around folks who think like this together and are able to talk like this together? You and I know that we have very few groups that we could sit down maybe at work. I don't have these conversations at work. And I don't always have these conversations with some of my social groups. And so it means the world to me to be able to have it with other people who are working to understand it. And so, thanks, Lisa. We're so glad you're in there.
Yeah.
And again, we have a whole lot more of these kinds of conversations coming because it's so important that we become connected and that we strengthen one another. And we really, isn't it, can you envision a world where we tell each other the light that we see in each other? rather than everything that's wrong with each other.
Mm,
I want that world.
mm.
And so we're going to create it in our own little circle.
Absolutely. And, we got a message from Anna and Gladys as well.
Mm.
They're soon to be members of the Circle of Light. So
Yeah.
we'll be back in touch with you on that. And, we're just very grateful. This is a very important time of coming together and making those choices. It's very interesting because the guides said that oneness is a choice that each of us make.
Yeah.
And so, we ask you to make that choice maybe and come together in the Circle of Light. Or if you're not ready for that, why not join us with our Wisdom Wednesdays? It's absolutely free for you. You can go over to speakingfromsource.com and get free inspirational insights from the guides sent to your mailbox every week. Do go over to our website, speakingfromsource.com. There you'll find more information about the Circle of Light, and you'll also learn about our special events that are coming up and some of the podcasts that we're going to be appearing on, and all sorts of good stuff. So we love those connections.
We just love to be connected with you and to connect the guides with you. So bless you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Thank you for being part of this whole series. Some of you hung in week after week, and I'm really appreciative of that. Remember, you can go see that series on our YouTube or on soulsearch.tv. And we will talk to you again very, very soon. You know how to get a hold of us. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. There's more to come. Bye for now.